Hello my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who has popped in because you were curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome everyone. I'm Chatty, this is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away madly about some books that I read in April, but the books don't go out of date, so we're going to talk about them. This is one shot, no editing. I only have the camera rolling with the pause button at my disposal, so let's see what happens with the chaos. Cheers everyone. Clink, 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 clink. That's my little teacup, tiny teacup gimmick for those without the eyeballs. Okay, I am just gonna rattle through what I read in April because it's July. I'm behind with books, but I want to let you know roughly what I thought about these books because I love these books and I want to tell you about them. So I'm going to start off with the ones where I haven't even mentioned them really and kind of came into my life as a bit of a surprise, really. So that's what I'm going to start off with, and then I will get to ones where I have already mentioned them before. And I think the ship of me giving you copious amounts of detail and emotional play-by-plays has sailed. One, I've got 13 books here to talk about. I had a great reading month in April, not just of how many books I read, but just the range and the quality of the books. It has since changed a tad, but we'll continue. Where was I? I've totally lost my train of thought. It has gone. But yes, so it's going to be more of a summary because I have sieve brain, but I just about know what I want to say about these books. So I'm going to hurry up and make this video before all thought empties from my mind. The first book I'm going to talk about, I don't have a physical copy. I've got a little placeholder here. This was the last book that I read, and I listened to the audiobook of Nightbloom by Peace Adozo Medi. This was one of the long list. I can't remember if it made the short. No, it didn't make the short list. It was on the long list for the Women's Prize last year, so that's 2024. And I just kind of got into an audiobook listening mood. I just wanted to have stuff to listen to as I was doing loads of other things, and I have found books where I don't necessarily know if they're going to be for me, but I am interested in reading them, just really suit me for audiobooks. And I'm so pleased that I did the audiobook of this one because I really enjoyed the narrators. So Nightbloom is set in Ghana, and it tells the story of these two girls that aren't sisters but have that kind of sisterly bond. It's sort of coming of age, then where they are as grown-ups, and sort of looks at that. Before I continue, I just want to say, if you are looking into reading Nightbloom, if Nightbloom is kind of on your radar, skip ahead. Just don't listen to me, because I think the best way of reading Nightbloom is to go in knowing very little, having very little expectation, and just embracing the story and just listening to it and just letting it unfold in front of your eyes or ears, because I just think that's a lovely way for it to do that. If you enjoy stories about different classes, different cultures, being part of two worlds, friendships, families, feminism, all of those kind of themes, and having kind of different perspectives and different generations, not fully different generations, but kind of a growth in life, more of a kind of family saga. I don't typically read family saga, but this one really worked for me. Then I recommend this book. I'm now going to talk mild spoilers, not big spoilers, but like I said, I feel that this one works. Just letting it happen without knowing anything. So, you have these two sisters, not sisters, you have these two girls, Okofor and Selassie, who both live in Ghana. They grow up together, and then Okofor moves away, and they just in very different circumstances. The first part of it's in 3 parts. The first part of the book is Okofor's story. She is narrating it. You get her views on everything. And the narrator for this was Sarah Dogbadsi. Her voice was lovely for this. It really gave me a sense of place, a sense of Okofor's character. You really understand like her mother, all the people she was dealing with, her friends, what happened when she then moved country, and kind of how she continued with her education and everything that was important for her. I thought the narrator did an amazing job of capturing all of that. And then the second part is Selassie. So we go back and hear things from Selassie's point of view. So the gaps that we missed, we then get them. And the narrator for this was Ekwe Okuma. And again, very, very different voice, very slightly pacier narrative style, which I felt really fitted with Selassie's character. And it's just wonderful having listened to Okorafor and then filling in the gaps with Selassie and just readjusting perceptions of things. And there were nuggets. There were nuggets when you were listening to Okorafor tell her story, where I was like, I feel maybe you're being a tiny bit self-centered, and maybe you haven't picked up on how to be a friend to Selassie, having come from a different perspective. And then listening to Selassie and her story, you're like, yeah, that's what I was feeling, maybe was happening. And just picking up all those different things was wonderful. And just the wider family and the communities around these, and just little hints that are dropped, you just start to build up this bigger picture. And then the third part comes when both of these women are grown up, and we hit kind of present day with them as grown-ups when their paths cross again. And it was great to kind of see everything you know about Okorafor, everything you know about Selassie, but they don't know a thing about each other. And it was just wonderful to see these things come together, and the themes that continue to encircle, and just how you just got a sense of character. And Okorafor's mother was such a big character in this book, and it was fascinating. And just starting to peel back the layers from her and from other characters, it just made this book just so beautiful. The third narrator, the narrator for the third part, was Jessica Sarkodie. And I think she did a really good job of bringing out Okorafor's voice and Selassie's voice. But I would have preferred it if we could have had Jessica narrate the third half, but when Okorafor spoke or when Selassie spoke, we had Sarah and Ekwe's voices doing those characters. I just feel it would have flowed a bit nicer because they weren't completely the same. So you kind of had to just adjust yourself slightly. And I know from watching Nicole from Dusty Booksniffer's video of when she was reading this, definitely the narrators jarred her from the story, and I just think it would have been much more well-rounded if that could have been incorporated. But on the whole, it was a wonderful audiobook. The voices really brought it to life for me, and I just think that Peace did a beautiful job of just the plotting of it, and like I said, like the themes and how it kind of comes full circle and all of those just beautiful moments. I just really, really enjoyed, and will definitely be wanting to read more from her. But this was a brilliant book for me, and not something I usually read, so that was very exciting. Moving on to a book that I had been highly, highly, highly anticipating, and it's almost like I treated myself to at the end of the month when I'd finished doing my plans. And I definitely read it at the right point for me. I was just ready to just not worry about anything else and just read. And that is The River of Silver by Shannon Chakraborty, or S.A. Chakraborty. This is a collection of short stories from the Daverbad trilogy. So that is City of Brass. I can't speak, I'm lisping. The City of Brass. I can see them all on my shelf over there, so I'm just literally reading them. The Kingdom of Copper and the Empire of Gold. Like I said, brain has got turned into a sieve. So it's from that series, and these are all stories that kind of fit in. Some are before, some are during, and some are after, and it is just a wonderful addition to those stories. If you have not read the Daverbad trilogy, don't start with this. What are you doing? Read the Daverbad trilogy, and then this is your cherry that sits on the wonderful, magnificent, tiered cake of amazingness, which is the Daverbad trilogy. I loved this. This was just wonderful additions to the characters, just lovely little moments that I felt we just needed to just fully enjoy the story. I understand why these were not included. So some of them were, I don't know where you would place it to keep the flow of the books. And I definitely think that the way the Empire of Gold ended was perfect, but I appreciated having little extra bits in this collection. So yes, it was brilliant. Oh, right, next big book I need to talk about is another Women's Prize nominee, And that's from this year, and it is Nesting by Roisin O'Donnell. Just checking that I did pronounce that correctly. I think it's, yes, I did, O'Donnell. Again, this is the second women's prize book that's in my month. What am I reading? But nesting, just hearing everyone talking about nesting and the premise of nesting. Again, it was an audiobook. I was browsing the Borrow Box, which is a library app, the audiobook library app, and I was like, oh, nesting, I could get hold of it and I could just start listening. Lovely, I'm gonna do that. So I did, and I was not expecting to be so pulled in and enthralled by this story. And again, massive shout out to the narrator, who is Louisa Harland. The voices and character that she gave to this narrative were spectacular. You had a variety of accents and clear distinctions between the characters. You felt the level of threat in this story. The tension in this story was so high. So it was a one she really brought to life, Roisin O'Donnell's words. It was just wonderful. I knew this book was going to be emotionally impactful because of the subject matter. The domestic abuse, the emotional abuse, the financial abuse, the mental abuse sort of within that coercion, that controlling nature of this story, I knew was going to be really kind of hard to hold on to. But it was shown so beautifully and interspersed with just these gorgeous moments with this family and this lovely kind of pulling together of found family, finding friends in unexpected places, not being judgmental. It absolutely highlighted the awful red tape systems that are in place, the housing crisis, all these things that I never really considered before. And just the strength of character that our protagonist Kira has to keep going and to hold on to was just wonderful. And I thought the job that Roisin did to kind of show how hard it is, to how much you must want to be away, how bad it must have got for you to put yourself in this really fragile position in terms of being able to access food and shelter for you and your young children. It was just beautifully done. And I've not read a book before where I have felt so angry to the point where I had to just stop. I've read books where I felt upset, hurt on behalf of the character, worried for the character, but this made me rage, not only because of the abuser, but also the failure of systems to help this family, to support this family. I'm just like, where are the health professionals? Where are the children's services? Why is no one helping them? It was fantastically done. And like all of those emotions were just absolutely perfect. That's the hitting all of the marks that should have been hit from this book. And I've got such a vivid memory of being so excited. I was going to listen to my audiobook. I was going to go and do the shop. I was going to do the weekly shop, going to buy this food for the family. I was like, I'm going to listen to my audiobook the whole way. It's going to be great. As soon as I got to the shopping centre, something was about to go down. There was something that was going to happen. I was terrified. I was so terrified on behalf of our protagonist. I was like, oh my goodness. I can see the cogs. I can see the twisty plotting of this abusive Machiavellian. And I am fuming. I'm fuming and I'm angry. And I'm not going to be able to concentrate on shopping. I'm just going to want to pace. So I'm going to have to make the really hard decision and turn off the audiobook, do my shopping, and then listen to it. It's like, can someone find me something to clean so I can carry on listening, please? It very much felt like that. But this was, oh, my heart was pounding. Honestly, I've never felt so tense reading a book before. So, well done. Fantastic book. Okay, books is going to be harder for me to talk about now. These are the 3 books that I read for Transgirl April, and I have already spoken in depth about these. I have already nearly edited together a video about these before it froze and got wiped, and I don't have the editedness. I still have all the individual footage, but I haven't got the means to pull it all together and make that video. So it kind of hurts me a little bit, but I'm going to tell you about these books. So I have the non-fiction What's the Tea by Juno Dawson. This is a YA non-fiction. I love a YA non-fiction. They do fantastic layout. So first of all, we get really great title pages. We get little bits of text pulled out. I just find this so accessible and I really love it. This book, Juno Dawson does an excellent job. I love her snarky writing style, and it just really works for me. If you need someone in your corner that's going to make you laugh and laugh at people that maybe have not got the nicest personalities, especially towards trans people, then it's definitely going to make you feel good to read this. She breaks it down, she makes it clear, and she kind of points out what I don't see what the big deal is. Let's just all talk about this like civilly. And it kind of goes through people's individual journeys. It talks about it's kind of sprinkled with trans role models, trans history, all of that kind of interlinked within it, as well as kind of going through chapters talking about transitioning socially, questioning how to talk to people, how to come out about being trans, what it's like if you want to be a trans ally, how can you be most supportive. All of those things are kind of like, she holds your hand and she takes you through step by step. So you can absolutely dip in and out of this, and you can read it cover to cover to get a really kind of good view about what it means to be trans. The only thing that's quite upsetting in here is this was written in 2021. So she does mention puberty blockers. Puberty blockers, you can't get them anymore on the NHS. You can't get them at all, I think. I don't think you can get them privately either in the UK. So that really sucks. Yeah. So just be aware this was written in 2021. So not all of the information is going to be the most up to date, but the heart is there. Next, I have a fiction to talk about. This is Pet by Kevvie Emeze. This is a story that I've had and I've been anticipating for a really long time, and finally it was this moment. And I had a wonderful time reading this. I don't know if it's classed as a novella or a short story, but it's not very long at all. It really didn't take me that long to read. It was great to just sit and immerse myself. This is a utopia, and we find out that maybe it's not, as with all utopias, as utopic as we think it is, if that's the word. We get introduced to our protagonist Jam and her parents, and we get the history of that there has been this war against monsters and eradicating monsters. And monsters might not be physically monstrous in terms of what we think of, but just people that are cruel and do bad things. And they've managed to eradicate them, which is a very naive thought. And what I think this story does so well is highlighting how awful it feels to not be believed, and the idea of not being believed when you report abuse. And I think that is done so thoughtfully, and it's shown in... I can't find the words. It's really shown well. Kevvie Emeze it's a really kind of like... No, thoughtful is all I've got at the moment. It's done really thoughtfully. It really highlights kind of that message of the importance of listening and accepting and believing people when they are being brave enough to open up to you about something really horrific. And it kind of touches on a little bit about the guilt we feel of not having realised or not having done something. And I think it's that worry of missing something if there is abuse happening, that worry that you've missed it and ignored it, that kind of spurs our protagonist on to be brave enough to try and confront this. There's a really lovely relationship between Jam and Pet, who is a kind of fantastical being that has come to hunt a monster, even though there are no monsters in this land. And it was a really fascinating kind of relationship between the two, and kind of how the story unfolded, and just getting a sense of Jam and how Jam feels. Jam is a trans girl, and literally just in the beginning it's mentioned that she's trans, and we have a wonderful kind of sci-fi futuristic. How delightful that would be is if we could be at that part in technology right now, for Jam to just be given the correct puberty for her to be who she truly is. And then that was all that was mentioned, and then Jam just gets to be a person in a story, which I thought was brilliant. And my final one that I read for Transgirl April was a memoir, and this is Not Just a Tomboy, a trans masculine memoir by Casper J. Baldwin. I do have a video where I have a very strong emotional reaction to this book, and just wanted to share my thoughts and feelings on it, and how relevant I felt it was to be reading it at this time. So I will link that in the description box for you to have a look at. But this talks about Casper's childhood growing up in the 90s, and how childhood was pretty straightforward. There were a couple of moments that felt kind of dysphoric, but it wasn't until puberty hit that he felt really, really dysphoric, and how that impacted not only his like social life, but his ability to look after himself, to engage in the world around him, to try and be involved in life as much as possible. Like, he was just held back so much by this dysphoria and trying to feel comfortable. It explores him coming out much, much later as a adult, the other side of university, and having lived and breathed all of this distress with him in this book. When you get to that moment of him starting to tell people, you feel that relief, you feel that weight come off your shoulders, you feel this ability to maybe start properly living as himself, to not have to carry, to not have to hide, to not have to be away from everything, and just the claustrophobia of how it feels to be seen and perceived as the gender that you aren't. It's just a really powerful memoir. It really, really touched me. It really got to me emotionally, and I just think this is such a brilliant book, and everyone should really read it to get an understanding of what it feels like. Every journey is different. Every trans story is completely different, which is why I think it's important to read as many as possible, because not one person's experience is going to be the same for everyone else. Like all life, humans are unique individuals. But I thought it was really well written as well. I thought Casper J. Baldwin did a fantastic job with this book. And this is a library copy, but I really want my own copy. Oh, there we go in a nutshell. That was my Transgirl April. I had a brilliant Transgirl April. Really, really enjoyed it. Okay, I come on to, are you ready for this? The third book, which is a Women's Prize nominee. So I buddy read 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster by Morrigan Lee with Emily from Nevermoor Novels. I'm very pleased that I buddy read this book, because this book is heavy. There are some very difficult scenes to read in this book. But yeah, this is the third book that I read. It was actually the first one. This is the one that was actually planned, and then I just kind of went on an audiobook Women's Prize reading frenzy. I really enjoyed the layout. No, not the layout. That's the wrong word. Crafting, structure. That's the word. I enjoyed the structure of this book, how each life was kind of shown and how it wasn't done chronologically, and how you kind of pieced together how all these lives kind of fitted. And I really enjoyed the top and tail of meeting Ms. Mook in the retirement home. I immediately kind of connected. She's a really fascinating character, and I enjoyed how the narrator connected to her and how we saw that at the end as well. And then in the middle, you get to read about Ms. Mook and all of the different things that she does. I would definitely it's definitely made me want to read kind of more around the time and place that this was set. It sounds like a really interesting historical period to look at. There were some chapters I enjoyed more than others and kind of found fascinating in different ways. Definitely check trigger warnings for this book. But I think once you know there are certain chapters and where it is horrific and then ones where it's not as bad, so you can move on from it. But I just found it really fascinating, and there were some hopeful moments as well within this. There were some really lovely moments, unexpected moments, moments of joy, and just the ingenuity within this book of the protagonist. The ingenuity of the protagonist I just thought was fabulous, and I really enjoyed the outcome. I thought it all kind of came together quite beautifully, and really lovely book. Okay. Book that I haven't spoken about yet. I have been reading on and off Wearing My Mother's Hat by Sophia Thacker, which is a poetry collection. I really loved Sophia Thacker's first collection of poetry, which was Somebody Give This Heart a Pen. She's very, what's the word? It's performance poetry. So it's poetry that kind of comes alive when you read it out loud. So it's when you speak it, it just sounds great to say. This one I definitely feel I'm going to want to kind of read it again to kind of build up a picture of, for some reason, I really want to know which particular women she's talking about in different poems. You might get a sense of idea. It kind of does go through chronologically, but there's certain aspects I'm like, are you talking about that one or are you talking about that one? But essentially it doesn't matter. It's what you take from it. And the main thing that's kind of taken from here is the strength of women. The different journeys they had to come on, the different paths, the different trials and tribulations they've had to face, and just the proudness they have for their granddaughter. It just really shines through. So it's the love of this, the different generations in this family, and the strength that kind of comes through in this, and I really enjoyed reading it, and I will be picking it up to read again and kind of getting more out of it from that way. But also look at the cover. We have absolutely gorgeous artwork by Sabrina Khadija. Her illustration of grandma, the mother and the daughter, all in their heritage traditional clothing with the bright colours and the gold jewellery. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I think there's two books I've definitely spoken of and two that I have not really spoken of. We're on to Middlegrade now. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about Onyeka and the Heroes of Dawn by Tola Okoguru. This is the final book in the Onyeka series, as far as we know. There is, I think, potential to kind of add more, but also I think it also finishes in a nice place, and you could definitely leave it there and feel that things will continue to happen and maybe go in the right direction. So this is a sci-fi fantasy novel about a group of talented, gifted children that have extra abilities, and they use them for good. There's a bit of an elemental aspect to it in terms of looking after keeping the world. I don't know what the right word is. It does feel that the danger kind of comes from kind of an environmental kind of aspect of it in here that could be taken the wrong way. But I really enjoy the friendship, the found family and the friendship within these, and the different character arcs that they go on. I felt that Onyeka really had to face up to a lot of her past kind of demons within this and explore kind of where she wanted to be and how she saw herself. And I thought that was kind of done really well within this, as long as looking at the family and connections here. And it was a fun end to this series. I'm trying to say it but without giving away spoilers, but it's not always kind of clear cut. I think in here there's a lot of different things that are explored, a lot of like what is right, what is wrong kind of explored. for want of a better word. But it's really, I find it really fun. I really enjoy the world and the characters, and it's a great middle grade book read, and I recommend. Slightly different genre middle grade book, I have When Stars Are Scattered by Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed. This was the book for March and April from Katya from Page Turns with Katya's Read Around the Globe that she co-hosts with Jack, and there is a live which I still need to watch. I haven't had the brain space to sit down and watch it yet, but I really want to. I will leave all of those links in the description box as well. This is a reread for me, but it's the first time reading from my own copy because previously I got it from the library, and it is such a fantastic book. So it's the story of Omar's life in a refugee camp, and the importance of education, and the illustrations in here are absolutely beautiful. They really bring it to life. There is such a warmth in here, as well as kind of showing how difficult life is for people who have been displaced, and how uncertain, and how refugee camps are essentially like prison camps, because they don't have the freedom to just go. Like, they're here, they're contained, and they need to be put somewhere. And it just really kind of helps show how important it is for aid, and for hope, and for understanding, and for education, and just how easy it is for the rest of the world to just ignore their plight. So it's a really, again, it's a hard-hitting book, but with a lot of heart in here. And the relationship between Omar and his brother Hassan is, again, it's just so warm and fuzzy, and shows how Hassan has his gifts and abilities that Omar hadn't always appreciated. And it's just really lovely disability representation in here as well with that, and just the found family and things. And there's a really lovely part at the back where Omar shares some photographs and kind of how his life has progressed and what he's doing, and it's really impressive, and how he's supporting education in refugee camps. Okay, I've been doing quite well with this. Just 2 books left to talk about, and I have already spoken about them with my wrap up of my middle grade read-alongs. So the first one is the winner of the Middle Grade Readers' Choice Award 2024, which I'm doing a read-along with people from my Discord, and this is The Girl Who Kept the Castle by Ryan Gowden. This was an absolute delight of a middle grade to read. There was wonderful whimsy within this book. There was a threat level in here. There was a mystery. There was a protagonist that you were really rooting for, and you just wanted her to come into her own and be appreciated and be acknowledged for what she could do. There's an amazing bunch of characters in here. A narcissistic wizard, a smart talking cat, a compost dragon, just glorious characters. And the mystery and things all comes together, and there's kind of layers of the history of it, and it was just so much fun to read this book. I really enjoyed Ryan Gowden's writing style as well. It really worked for me. I can't wait to pick up the sequel, which is being released in the autumn. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I had a great time talking with Lucia and Stacey in Discord about this book. It was a lot of fun. And finally, I have my reread of Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. And I had an amazing time. This book was so much fun to reread. I'd forgotten quite a lot of it. I still had the same amount of joy and emotion and fear whilst reading it. So it was just delightful. If you are not aware of what Nevermoor is, where have you been? It is a middle grade fantasy, and it looks at Morrigan Crow, who is an 11-year-old child who has been cursed and is possibly fated to die on her 11th birthday. But before that can happen, she is taken away to Nevermoor, where she goes through trials to try and enter the Wanderer Society. It has found family, it has an amazing mentor, there's a lot of whimsy, there's a lot of fun. The protagonist has got grit and determination, as well as kindness. I wasn't sure if I was going to say kindness or a kind heart. And there's a lot of humour in here and strong messages. And I think it's fabulous. Okay, that was great. I've got through all of the books. So that is everything I read in April. Feel free to get chatty in the comments about any of these books, because I do love a chat. Even if I can't get to them straight away, I do really, really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this, then give it a little like. That would always be very nice. And if you like the vibe, why not subscribe? And I will be chatting about more books on here. If you particularly love Middlegrade, I do have a Discord called Middlegrade Mad Chat, which you can click in the description box. And if you want more information about these books, I have got all of the Storygraph links in the description box as well. I think that's enough talking from me, so I'm going to say goodbye and happy reading, everyone.